I'm with man like Pierre and Tom, Bali's baddest, Bali's pair of baddest mafioso. The colonialist, the proud colonialist,
Dutch.
leading the crowd, the Sabre Squadron. They're basically the Neo Knights Templar, like the Knights Templar revival.
Yeah.
But it's modern because we're from we actually this is like the hybrid Knights Templar of like the white Christian with the what is it, like the sort of Middle Eastern and also the white as well,
Yeah.
like European.
Like the crusade and all the countries collabed.
It's like a woke crusade. This is what the liberals want to do. This is really gonna fuck with them. Like we're saying, oh, we're crusaders and we're going to colonize them, but but we're more cultural. So is it a bad thing? All right, let's give some context for your fight, Tom, because this is honestly one of the coolest stories for a long time. Is the fact that, tell me the actual time frame. Was it like 12 or 18 months ago? You were what, a software engineer for Google, and you're now a professional heavyweight boxer in front of 20,000 people in a tropical island. That is nuts.
Yeah, so it was a year ago I left the corporate world. I did a computer science degree in college with business, so it was like 50-50.
So when you were, hold on, wait, when you were like 18, 19, 20, you were going uni like everyone else, like doing
Yeah.
And in Ireland, was it?
In Ireland, yeah, in a really good university in Ireland, to be fair. The education system in Ireland is legit and it's like super cheap as well.
Okay.
So I was doing that. And then, yeah, as I said, I was like throwing on the Google account, which is like super fucking prestigious because Accenture had never written code ever for Google before. And anyway, I went in there. Immediately, I thought that I was going in there for a different role that like wasn't as technical, like wasn't as like JavaScript and all that shit. And then like on the first day, I actually found out that I've just been like basically thrown into this fucking thing. And I was actually coding, and I just said, look, lads, I'm not putting anyone under any illusions. I am shit at programming. I was like, I'm just going to be asking the most retarded questions of all time. Just bear with me for like 6 months. And essentially, I just like figured it all out, like as I like went basically on the job, which is exactly what I did with boxing as well, to be honest. Yeah. But yeah, within 6 months, I was given like dominion over like a tool with like fucking tens of thousands of like internal Google employees using it. And I was like, that was like me. Like I like owned that tool, which is like a lot of responsibility for like a retard just out of college.
So what do you think that is? Why do you think you attract these kinds of opportunities in your life and you're able to make stuff happen? What character traits do you have which other people should look to develop if they want to create the same fucking hero's journey as you, if they want to go through the same crazy stories that you're creating?
So I've got an addictive personality for sure. Anyone that knows me in real life will attest to that.
Crack. Oh, I can answer that easily, Sam, as in one sentence.
But like this is the thing,
every morning, I see everyone's stacks on Twitter. Lion's Mane, fucking like Tonga Ali, also crack.
Yeah. But like, as I said, it can be your greatest virtue, but also be your greatest flaw at the same time. Like when I was in college, for the first 3 years, I did like fuck all. I was getting like the worst grades of all time, and I was literally just like living that like party kind of lifestyle in college, whatever. Obviously, my like autistic fucking ADHD, like obsessive personality was funneled into like voices, shall you say. And then I kind of just had like a realization then, like in final year, I was like, 100% of my degree is basically weighted towards final year. So now is the time to take out the finger. And then I basically just got first class honors in the last year. The year before that, I got like fucking a 2.2, which is like 50% or some shit, which is like pretty poor.
Let me jump in there because what you're describing is a trait of all people with the hunter gene. You can go into a whole TED talk about this neurotype, which is that ADHD hyperfocus type, which is good for hunting, right? And like really quickly as an overview, basically the theory goes that it's a brain type that we actually evolved with, and it's why the highest achievers and the most competent men often have this, what fucking the lizards would call, and like the system would call like neurodivergence or ADHD or whatever. But actually what it comes down to is a certain part of your brain is more active, which is like the hypothalamus, the more emotional center that picks up and reacts. Because back in the day, before like industrial revolution and like go to a 9 to 5 and sit in a box and package this thing in a warehouse conveyor belt, before any of that shit, we were out in the wild and you had to detect threats, you had to detect opportunities, you had to be responsive to crazy like environment stimuluses and stuff and changes in weather and lead and like be like perceptive and like work out how to like best look after your tribe in the face of so many more threats. So people with this brain type are actually, like, this is a gay word, but they are generally more alpha because they're more capable, they're more able to like respond and provide and pull off coolest shit. And then post like industrial revolution, when everything got systemized, this brain type obviously was like pushed to the side in favor of like the slave mind, which isn't that perceptive, it's not that reactive, it's more docile. and it's more like farmer suited, like more long-term thinking and like cycles and sustainable and reliable. Do you get what I'm saying? So that's why in school, in the modern cuckery of school, this brain type, the hyper responsive stuff that gets bored in 5 seconds. But guess what? If they procrastinate and you leave it to the last minute and you know you've got to get something done under pressure, we're going to outperform everyone, absolutely everyone. So, and that's why like it doesn't quite suit that thing about like, oh, just go pay a pension for 60 years and play the game, and do you know what I mean, like pay your taxes. It's the complete opposite brain type, which is why I think people like us end up having like professional boxing debuts in a year in Bali, like moving across the world, like throwing everything in a suitcase and just randomly starting fighting, like. And that's why I think we connect together, but also have the better stories and ultimately have a bigger destiny. And my advice to people like that who, because I'm making it sound like it's a good thing, it comes with addictions, it comes with social outcast, it comes with self-doubt, it comes with anxieties, it comes with like not fitting in, being rejected, like being told you're not enough by people. Do you know what I mean? Like, so once you can overcome that stuff and you find your tribe and find your purpose, it's actually like the most magic thing ever, right? And it leads to stories like yours. Would you say that's relatable?
100%, 100%. Yeah, like I'd say I'm probably, especially in the last couple of years, specifically the last year, I've definitely drifted from a lot of people back home. We haven't like necessarily like fallen out or anything. They're still great guys, but I think I'm just going such a fucking weird route. Admittedly, like it is a weird fucking route that I'm taking, but on that path, I've found guys that are also on that weird route.
Yeah.
I.e. Pierre, i.e. you, Reese, the boys, we started Sabre together. And I think you just like, if you're living like authentically, this might be a bit wazzy woozy, like, but if you're living authentically, you'll just get gifted shit, I believe, genuinely. Like if you're living an inauthentic life, you're just going to be miserable. And when you're in that low vibrational misery state, nothing good is going to come from that. I was like living like high vibration, fucking just like being an authentic motherfucker, like things will just be gifted to you. I genuinely believe that. Also with prayer as well. Like last year, I basically,
prayer is in prayer.
100%. And like, I don't care. You might say, oh, there's no quantifiable data for this, blah, blah, whatever. Last summer, the month before I left corporate, I started praying twice a day. And then I prayed for something really specific, and I was granted it like 3 days later. And then from that opportunity, I ended up making a fucking massive bag of cash and being able to leave my corporate role. And then I was able to invest the money that I made from that into Sabre, a couple of other things, moved out to Bali. And then like that really like gave me like a nice little kickstart to leave Soilcorp. And since then, my trajectory, like the more I pray, the more grateful I am. Even if something that like seems at the surface like is like bad, or so, like for example, losing my fight, right? That can be viewed as like something terrible, but like honestly, I don't view it terrible at all. I prayed for that fight like a year ago. When I first started boxing, I was fighting in amateurs. Like I got like a first round knockout in front of like 600-700 people. It was like crazy, like highlight reel and shit. But like I kind of knew I wasn't tested because I was like, all right, I wasn't tested. Right, same with my second fight, same with my third fight. I never really felt like I was being tested. But like on Twitter, it looks good because it's like, oh, you knocked this guy out cold. Oh, whatever, you're a G. But like internally, I knew that like I wasn't actually tested yet. And all I was praying for all year, the last like 10 months since I started competing, was I just want to fucking scrap. I just want to scrap where I can just walk away from it and be like, holy fuck, that was sick. And I never actually even prayed to win. All I just prayed for was I just want a fucking scrap. 10 months later, I'm basically fighting in front of 50,000 people on live stream, 2,500 people in a packed super club against the national heavyweight champion. I gave him a good fucking rally, and we go again.
And you know what you're talking about there is that Bruce Lee quote, which is I think it's Bruce Lee. I can't remember who it is exactly, but it's I pray not for an easy life, but the strength to endure a hard one. And that's not saying, oh, give me suffering and life to be hard. It's just saying like, give me the challenges so I can become more valuable. I can learn more shit, go through cooler stuff, and then ultimately become more valuable. Like you said, I don't think anyone I know who's genuinely inspiring, who I've met, whether mainstream famous or just within my own friends, like it's the same thing. No one's ever gone, oh, please just let me win. Please let me win. That's anxiety. That's weak. That's gay. That's basically saying if you pray like that and you manifest like that, you're basically saying I don't really believe in myself to be able to get through stuff. So I hope God or whoever can just let me skip that and get to the end result. The end result doesn't matter. And we can come on to this in terms of your attitude to fighting. In my own career, one of the biggest breakthrough moments in life in general, which I took from fighting, is becoming unattached and genuinely not caring about the outcome, but being really grateful for the opportunity to experience an outcome that's unique and fun. Do you get what I mean? And challenging.
Yeah.
So speaking of your fight, let's go through this shit. Let's just set the scene. You had 10 months experience boxing. This is so cool.
No, I've been training for like, I'd say 3 or 4 years, but 2 of that was during COVID where gyms weren't even open. So I was just hitting heavy bag. Am I even learning anything? No. I don't even know what you'd call that. And then like I fucked around in a couple of gyms. I was living in London for 2 years, but again, I was just DJing like out like fucking Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Might do a boxing session on Monday. Might do a little bit of sparring on Saturday, like 2 rounds. Like I wasn't really training. It was only when I actually came here to Asia that I actually like realized what it's like to train at a proper fight gym, where it's like training twice a day, every day, sparring 10 rounds on a Saturday. Fucking rest, recovery. And I was only really here like a month. And basically, a guy that was supposed to fight, he broke his nose in sparring. And my coach was just like, "Do you want to step in from? It's in 10 days." And I just said, "Fuck it." I was not fit. I was like, literally smoking cigs, drinking, whatever. Like I was the least, like, yeah, I just was not ready for that fight at all. I still took it. And that was like my first fight. Got a first round knockout in that fight. And the reason I was going actually for knockouts because I knew I wouldn't have the cardio to do 2 or 3 rounds. So I just had to get a fucking knockout, which I did. It's crazy.
That's fine. So fast forward. Okay, so we had what 10 months training up until this fight, which was last month. So like 2 weeks ago.
10 months.
So between the fight we're talking about that we're about to review is a fight against a heavyweight champion who's had what was his record?
13-3.
Okay, so that's 16 pro fights. I would assume an amateur career. How old is he? Like 30 something?
29, yeah, he's 2 years old.
Okay, so he's a bit. So he's got experience in what is it, miles on the clock. You had what 10 months at this point?
He competed for 10 months, yeah.
Right. Okay, and what like 3 amateur fights, right?
3 amateur fights in that time, yeah.
So you're going. I mean, that's hard to even put into words just how outmatched you actually are in terms of experience there. Let's just call it, fucking hell, like times what, at least 30, probably like at least 30 times more than you, the experience. What were people telling you going into that? I remember you posting about it before on Twitter. You basically outlined this and you said, fuck it, let's just run it and see what happens.
Yeah.
What was kind of the external pressures? What were people telling you? What were you telling yourself?
Honestly,
What did you have being that outmatched? What did your family think?
Honestly, everybody was just like, yeah, fuck it, send it. Like, to be fair, like everyone in the gym like has faith in me as a fighter. So no one was really saying like, oh no, I don't know, you're going in over your head. Everyone was like, fucking send it. So I was like, all right, let's go.
That's, I would say, from my point of view, is like as an actual coach that does this full time, and I have done this with hundreds of fighters who've had their first fight. That sounds romantic and sexy and cool, and it's like, yeah, my whole bridge and we're backing me, and like, let's go do it, mate. Tom's quite unique. Let's not overlook the fact you had high level. One, you've got a high degree of natural athleticism. As we've discussed, you've got natural traits of self-belief and stuff like that, which you need to have like a minimum threshold to be able to pull this kind of stuff off. Also, you've performed at swimming at a high level. That is a very big deal. For the person listening to this, don't just think you can have 10 months of like no physical activity and no performance ever, and then go and do what he did against someone that much more experienced without serious risk. Like there's a chance you can die during this stuff. Like if someone just hits you in the right way and you're genuinely not used to it, and the pressure of the situation is freezing you up, and it can be very dangerous. But you've performed at a high level with swimming, right?
And rugby, yeah.
And rugby. So you've got some contact experience, you've got crowd experience, you've got a solo sport experience. You've been standing on a block like with a fucking starting gun going off. Like these things give you some sort of awareness of what it's like before you walk out into a very high pressure situation and stuff. Because for a lot of people, you can just fold, and it can be very dangerous. Boxing's not a joke. Like it's not a joke at all. So that's one thing I would just bear in mind. But equally, there's a very fine line there. It's like how risk averse do you want to be? Like how much do you want to manage your risk? And I think it's important to bear in mind your team as well. Like have good coaches and have good people around. You don't want so many yes men around you. They're like, yeah, just go for it, bro. And then you end up in a coma and they're like, oh shit, probably shouldn't have. Because that does happen, right? I've seen that a few times. What has been the immediate benefits after going through such a big step up, like going through this endeavor and this pulling off this fate? How has it changed your life since then? What have you noticed has been the differences?
Yeah, I think like going through a camp, I've basically been in camp since like April, to be honest. But even when I was
in September now, by the way, so that's like 6 months. What's that? 5 months?
Yeah, because I've had 3 fights in the last 6 months. But when I was in the amateur, when I was like kind of still competing in amateur level, I didn't really like. I mean, I took them seriously. Don't get me wrong. Still training twice a day. 3 times a day some days, you know, with a swim session or whatever for cardio and all that. So I was still like going hard, but I was also still drinking, still smoking, whatever. Well, maybe not smoking too heavily, but I was still drinking and stuff. To give you some context, 4 weeks before I fought that pro debut, I fought in the amateurs, and I won obviously or whatever. But the guy that was the guy that was cornering the guy that I fought was the guy that I fought 4 weeks later. So he had actually watched me fight one of his guys. But during the camp for that fight, 2 weeks before that amateur fight, I was in Amsterdam at a music festival, like a 3-day music festival, 2 weeks before that amateur fight. So I didn't really take it like too schizo, even though, as I said, I was still training. But then when I locked into the pro fight, I'm like, all right, as you said, you could actually die. Like, I mean, it happens, right? People just get fucking hit in the back of the head or whatever, and I just, whatever. So I was taking it a lot more seriously. I didn't smoke, didn't drink, whatever, went schizo for like, I think about 5 weeks it was. But in that period as well, like I had to go from amateur cardio, which is only 3 2-minute rounds, to the pro fight that I had, which was 4 3-minute rounds. So it's basically like 6 minutes of work versus 12 minutes of work. And I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but fuck me, that's a lot. It's basically 2 amateur fights in one night. And you can see in the video in a second, like after round 2, I was absolutely fucked. And then round 3 and 4, then like I was just going off pure will and just determination. But yeah, it's something that for my next fight, I'll have more time to develop that pro cardio, and I'll be able to like do more shit.
On a sports science level there, the difference between a 2-minute round and a 3-minute round, when compounded, especially over like 4 rounds, 5 rounds, 6 rounds, it's massive because you breach. If you've only used the 2-minute rounds as an amateur, you develop what's called like a lactate threshold, which is when you go from aerobic to anaerobic respiration. When you're used to conditioning for 2 minutes and fighting under pressure for 2 minutes, and then and for like your amateur career or in the gym or sparring, after the 120 seconds, you get your rest. Your body's getting used to your carbon dioxide tolerances, all the waste product tolerances, and your cells basically and your whole biological systems are used to that 2 minutes. As soon as you then push it for another 60 seconds, that is an overwhelmingly long amount of time if you're not used to it. It really is a huge difference. So that's why, and then you can maybe push yourself through it with just pure adrenaline for a round or two, but that's why people can literally gas after like 2 rounds, 3 rounds.
Just to circle back to your question though, in terms of what I got out of it, if I stayed at amateur for like another like 2 years, 3 years, like I don't know, in my head I'd still be like, fuck, 3 2-minute rounds, like that's where I'm at. And then I jumped to pro, which was, as we were saying, 4 3 minutes, double the workload. Now the idea of going back and fighting an amateur at 3 2s, now I'm like, what the fuck? How did I ever even think that was difficult? So it just like shows you just break. It's like that. What's that story? It's like the guys that like broke the 4-minute mile or whatever, and then like no one could break it, and then someone broke a 4-minute mile, and like 10 people broke it.
You remember when, another funny thing along those lines is when you see guys that are like, yo, I had my first fight, like I feel combat ready, and it turns out it was like an inter-club sparring thing in controlled conditions where everyone draws. And that's not to shit on them, but I remember going through the same thing. The first time I ever sparred, I was like, yo, I'm a boxer, and it was like 3 1-minute rounds or something, like my first ever sparring. I was like, that was so intense, so scary. I'm like finally a fighter. Then it was like the first interclub where you go to another gym outside of your gym. Then it was like an amateur where there's a winner or a loser. Then it was like white collar. Then it was like finally pro. And then each time you just level up, you're just like, those. Now I've done interclubs on drugs before at this point, like literally on MDMA, because it means nothing. And those same fights, those same interclub fights, other people are there like with headphones in, like fucking doing like warm-ups and shit. And I just turn up like off my nut, like this is just a big joke. So like you say, every time you hit a milestone forward, you can look back and it's like you lock off that previous threshold and you hit a new one. Do you get what I mean?
But it's funny because I don't know, you see people on Twitter or whatever, and they're like hitting pads and shit, and it's like, whatever, think they're a big G. It's like how you hit pads is not how you spar, and how you spar is not how you fight in amateurs, and how you fight in amateurs is not how you fight pro. You just feel overwhelmed, like someone's just like putting a force on your legs. I felt so heavy, and I was in the tunnel specifically like shaking out my legs, being like, what the fuck? Why do I feel so heavy?
That pyramid, that funny diagram of like, it's like the thing of like society. It's at the bottom, it's like peasants, farmers, industrialists, merchants, ruling class, politicians, and it goes up like that. We should do the same thing where it's like first time hitting pads, first time sparring, first interclub, first amateur, top like pro. Do you get what I mean? Like the levels of money, the levels of money Twitter fighter. So just quickly, what about outside of fighting, Tom? Like now you've hit this you've tested yourself, you manifested this scrap, you pulled it off. How's it affected, like 4 weeks after this fight now? How's it affected your everyday life, your confidence, your aura, your ability to talk to others, how you see the world outside of fighting?
Like even though I lost, like I don't look at myself like anyway, like worse than I did before. If anything, I'm like, fucking hell, that was so sick. I'm so proud I did that. I'm so proud I got the opportunity to do that. Even P was saying, like, he came over to my house like the day after, the day, or then like 2 days after, whatever. And he was like, bro, like, how are you in such a good mood? And I literally was like, bro, look where we're fucking living, bro. Yeah. Like, look where we were a year ago, whatever. We're in a fucking cubicle being told what to do by some fat bitch Karen. I was like, look what we're doing now. How the fuck could I complain about anything? And P was like, I've actually never thought about that before. And I was like, well, there you go. Like, fuck. Yeah. If I was to complain about fucking anything that's happened to me over the last year, I would just be an ungrateful fuck, and I deserve everything to be taken away from me.
What advice would you, because I think that's one of the biggest plagues in my life, definitely, and I know in others, is just comparing yourself to others. And every now and again, you got to check yourself and go, what am I doing? I'm fine. My life's amazing. How do you stay on top of that so you're not too hard on yourself? If that's even an issue, might not be an issue for you.
It's not an issue for me. To be honest, it's not something I've ever really thought of, but I can guarantee you, like, there's not a person in this world that I would swap lives with. Like, I don't give a fuck if you've.
That's probably because you're the guy that everyone compares himself to. Like 6'3", fights, like good looking. Like,
but there was a time where I was a fucking 60 kg gimp too. Like, so I mean, whatever. Like, I was a twig. I was a legitimate twig until like 15 or 16 years of age. So like, it's not like, oh, you're just like always like this big G. Like, no, like, I worked for everything I fucking have in my life right now. I fucking worked at business, even fucking college, even just shit that I'm not even using anymore, like fucking SolarCorp and stuff. Like, I've been working my whole life. So yeah, I'm obviously going to get rewarded for shit that I put time and energy into.
So on that note of you walking out, we're talking about your legs getting heavy. So yeah, talk us through what was going on here then.
So yeah, I was in the back there. If you want to pause it. I was in the back for like maybe like 20 minutes waiting for the fight before me to finish. And yeah, I just felt so fucking heavy. I was like trying to shake out my legs. And I was kind of thinking, like, I don't know, as I said, it was just like, it wasn't even like necessarily like nerves or self-doubt, because I had absolutely like, I had supreme confidence before it. I was like, yeah, I've trained hard. I'm going to do fucking sick. You know, I know my game plan, whatever. So it wasn't like nerves. I wasn't thinking, what if I get knocked out, or what if? There was none of that shit going through my head, but I was just overwhelmed. I don't know what it was. It was like maybe just like pure ecstasy or something, because I knew what I was just about to walk into. Like, I knew I was about to walk into the fucking Coliseum in like a packed super club, 2.5K people, like all my boys, my girlfriend, everything in the fucking crowd. Like my family watching back home, like tuning in on like the stream back home and shit. So yeah, maybe it was just that element to it. But it was definitely a foreign feeling for sure. And I'm just kind of hoping now that, you know, the next fight I go into, because I've experienced that like kind of like feeling before, that maybe next time I'm there, it'll be more familiar. And it's an experience thing, I think, and I hope.
It is. It's 100%. It's the same with like the first time you ever spar. If you've never boxed in your life and you know you need to box and you're scared and you build it up in your head and you go and do it, it's a biological response. Is that it doesn't matter like what's going on externally. It could be like you're about to fight a lion, a human, going to a big job interview, meeting a chick, whatever. Like it's just a hormonal control thing. That's all it is. And so the more times you experience it, the more you get used to it, the more you can just frame it. But it never really fully goes either. Yeah. Like it never, you want it, but you just have to learn to manage it. Basically, it will go down though.
Yeah, I absolutely couldn't wait though. I was just like looking so forward to getting in there. So yeah, here now I'm just like, I'm feeling pretty good actually. Kind of the closer I got up to the ring, I was like, yeah, here we fucking go. Sorry, 10-3 is his record.
It's a good matchup, to be fair. Will the ring go sexy?
Kind of clapped, to be honest.
Yeah.
Cooked. Yeah. Could have got better.
By the way, really quickly, had it compared to any swimming event you had done before?
Oh, way more, way higher, like fucking feeling of like I've never felt that before, like ever. Literally, it was crazy.
Was it good for you, do you reckon?
I reckon it definitely allowed me to drive on. Like when I was like fucked, it definitely allowed me to kind of like push past. Like let's say if like my max capacity is like 100%, I was definitely able to scrape out like 105%, 110% in like round 3 and 4. When I was literally running off fumes, purely just from probably like adrenaline and hype and the crowd and everything. Like it pushed me a little bit, yeah, for sure.
Cool. So the actual fight. So, Bron, what was your strategy going into this? Like, as soon as the bell rang, like, did you have a game plan where you like, I want to take the middle, I want to work off my jab, I want to, what would you
Yeah,
do?
so I watched a lot of his fights. So I had identified some things I wanted to do. A big one was like I want to just counter him a lot because he's kind of used to fighting like smaller people and like how they kind of close that gap. He likes to kind of like step back and maybe throw an up or a hook. So I kind of wanted to just stand in front of him, kind of like walk forward, hit him with jabs, and then counter whatever straights he's thrown out. And it was working like pretty well for like the first round. Now, to be fair, he's probably feeling me out here too, so he's probably not unleashing loads yet. But
Well, it's funny you say that. So I'll come in with some technical insights I've seen at this point, which is there's a ratio, right? Like there's a very easily applicable rule you can put into fighting, which is take one to give three. You heard that before?
yeah,
Take one to give many, which is like for every time they hit you, you have to hit them back more. Just basically just have a bigger ratio of strikes thrown and landed versus them. Very simple, right? So this is one thing I noticed early on when I watched this, early on in the fight, which then kind of dictated the frame and the outcome of the rest of the fight, which was if you look at how you started this off with the volume of what you're throwing versus the volume and the cadence of what he's throwing, yours is one, 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 like that. So is he right now. But once he gets a little bit of a measure of you, and by the way, you took control of the center really well. Your weight was nice on the back foot, and your jab is actually pretty good considering you didn't really have one, like until I met you anyway. Like when we first started training, you didn't have anywhere near as good of a jab as you should for someone with your height and power and athleticism. So clearly you've been working on it. There's some other points about the jab I'll come on to. But look, so you're just popping this jab out. He then starts reading it, and within I want to say like 30 seconds, 40 seconds or something, if you notice your cadence is still that one, that volume is still just peppering jabs. Now he starts coming back with those twos and threes. Do you see that? So like he's kind of got a range. And also what I noticed he was noticing, you had this tendency to always slip to the outside, this lean here. And I think he was just wanting to get that confirmation. That's what you're doing. Then he felt more comfortable to actually start hitting you with this volume. And this is an experience thing now. Like we said, he's got fucking 50 times the experience of you. Probably been fighting for like however many more years, 16 pro fights or whatever, 13 pro fights, probably loads of amateur. And this thing about ratio is what I'm talking about, where at the start, when you see this with amateurs and just beginners in general in fighting, the first thing, and this, by the way, is what separates amateurs from pros, is amateurs, the whole point of amateur is to lock in your fundamentals, your distance management, your shape, your balance, just staying calm, like your actual technique. Then, once you don't even have to think about those anymore and you become unconsciously competent with them, then you can start looking at actual strategy, which is like, how many are you going to throw back? Combination punching is actually very difficult. It's fucking hard. Like, and in the real, you can do it on the pads in the bag easy in shadow box, which is what you see online all the time. People just doing it, no resistance. Go do it in front of a paying crowd and just getting streamed in front of thousands of people and learn to throw those same 5-punch combinations against a resisting trained guy doing the same back. Combination punching is actually hard, and you can only do it once you've got these fundamentals locked off. So what I was seeing here was you just like kind of figuring out those fundamentals aren't fully locked off yet because you haven't had the time in. You can only get what I'm talking about, this pure unconscious competence of combinations, jab, like playing around with stuff, like changing your cadence, like feinting and stuff. That only comes when you don't even have to think about fundamentals anymore because you've done it so many times, and you haven't done that because you haven't had an amateur career, whereas he has. Do you get what I'm saying?
I think as well, like going back to what we were saying about how just way different it is when you're actually in a pro fight compared to like whatever sparring or even amateurs. Is like I know that I actually have so much more tools, and I think I just de factoed back to just like a set like few. And when I'm watching back, it's like, why the fuck did I not do this? Why the fuck did I not do that? And it's just like you do get like kind of like rabbit in headlights, a small bit when you're in there, and you kind of de facto back to like what's comfortable, and that's not necessarily always what's right.
It's literally experience. That's it. And you just get it over time. But someone like you, because you learn so fast and you're so talented, like what would take a normal pro 5 years, you'll get it in one. You see what I mean? Like you'll look back on this in fucking 3 years from now and this will just be hilarious to you. But you get my point about volume, how like you're hitting him with those one jab still. When he's coming back, he's starting to land like twos and threes. So yes. Even double jab. Do you see what I mean? He's looking to establish, like, even there, hook, jab. Whereas you're still the hook jab. There was like a 4, 5, 6 punch combination. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But he's already got the experience to go, all right, I'm going to now start smothering this guy with volume. And that's how he's now started to take the middle again. You see that? Look, every time he's now throwing at you, there's more than one punch.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying? And that there is pro experience, where he let you jab him at the beginning. He saw your movements. He saw that you like this certain slip over and over, and that's when he thought, all right, cool. Now I can start coming back with more.
Yeah.
Big. Oh, there he is.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go to Pierre. So Pierre, what were you saying? First round of seeing your first pro round is
Yeah.
as the lead lieutenant in the crowd. How was that for you?
This is my fight footage here. This is what I do my fight. I'm just kidding. Bro, so basically for people that don't understand, this is the biggest club in Bali. We booked out the biggest table and I invited like 60 people into the section. The owner of the stadium had to tell us to stop making so much noise and kick people out and doing too much shit. And like the photos don't do it justice. I was literally like, who wants to come in? Oh, do you know Lions MMA? All right, come in. I was just like telling people.
There was like 40 people in the section at one time. They had like double the security working just for that table.
They brought more security guards. There was people ordering drinks. I didn't even recognize them. I'm like, all right, whatever. It's old guys. Random old guy was there. Had no idea. But basically,
What you say?
Jacob here to shut the fuck up because we don't have the judges to hate us.
How you saying, yeah, yo, chill out. Pierre looking like fucking Jesus at the front in all white. The rallying cool.
Like, shut the fuck up, Jacob.
We got Tanner like locked in fully. Tanner's like, can't miss anything. I mean, Tanner was under more pressure than you. Look, he looks more nervous than you were in the ring.
Yeah, I told Tanner if anything doesn't get clipped right now, like me and you are gonna go again right after.
Yeah, that's gonna be the main event. Right, let's get back to the technicals of this fight. Oh yeah, that was another point I noticed was that whole of the first round was just a jab, great, no problem. But one thing to also add is that your jab, the reason a jab is the most important punch beyond many reasons, one of the most important reasons is it sets up everything. It sets up so much stuff, including shots off the same hand. So what you did it there. Here, what I'd like to see more from you as well is using your jab to open up a hook, to open up an uppercut, to feint. Those are 4 techniques off the same shoulder movement.
Yeah.
So I mean, jab, hook, uppercut, feint. Those are 4 different movements that are going to get 4 different reactions. Do you see what I mean? Versus just sticking to like the same movement each time. So you can quadruple your effectiveness just by adding just by having the awareness to adding that other stuff there. And changing level as well, by the way. I don't think you punched him in the body once. You jabbed him in the body once.
In the
Or you
first
jabbed him
round, I
upstairs.
got one in the first round, I'm pretty sure.
Say again?
I got one in the first round
Okay.
as he stepped in, but it wasn't
Yeah.
enough.
I mean, that's another thing. It's just by jabbing the body there, you've doubled your effectiveness of the jab straight away. He's now got to think about 2 things. And just on a fight IQ level there, this is all through one punch, remember. I mean, yeah, uppercuts and hooks are different punches, but it's one basic shape, one technique. As soon as, let's just stick to just the jab itself. Jab the head, jab the body, feint the head, feint the body. Those are 4, you've quadrupled your effectiveness with one arm movement. Do you see what I mean? And then when you add that with your distance, with your step, like where you go after it, this is how you become such a problem to people versus just one shot.
Yeah. Same
Shot, but 4 different ways of applying it. Do you see what I mean? And then you extrapolate that across all the punches, all the movements, and suddenly you can become this infinite problem for them. There you go, nice. And you see that second one landed straight away. You go to the body, the second one lands to the head. Such a hack that. If you're finding it hard to land on the head, just start landing on the body and then go back to the head afterwards. You're usually going to catch them. How are you feeling in this second round?
Fatigue is definitely coming in now. Third and fourth, I'm fucked.
Why do you think you were starting to feel it in the second round like this? Like, what was he doing differently? What were you doing?
No, I felt good in the second round in terms of like what he was putting on me. I felt like I was managing it quite well, to be honest with you. But I'm just talking like purely from a cardio perspective. I was definitely starting to fade.
How did you feel in your fight before this, cardio-wise? Your fight before this was 3-2s, was it?
2. Oh, the fight before this, I could have done another fucking 2 rounds. Like I was completely dictating the pace.
So what was the difference? Because you've only been fighting for like, what, 5 minutes at this point?
Yeah. Well, one.
So why are you so fucked after 5 minutes here, but you were after 6 minutes in the previous one, you were okay?
As I said in the previous one, I was dictating the pace.
Right.
Whereas like here, you know, he's stepping in, he's putting a lot more pressure on me, and obviously, I suppose the adrenaline as well in such a big stadium, like you get that adrenaline dump, and also like you've got like a more competent opponent like imposing his will on you, opposed to you just like imposing your will on like some like
That comes back to what I said about the volume thing. Here's a really interesting thing that sounds a bit crazy, but it's true. It's like a bit of an oxymoron. The more you throw, you would think you get more tired because you're using more energy, right? Right. What if you're throwing more and using more energy physically, but you're landing and you're imposing more? Do you think you're going to get more tired by landing, imposing, and winning someone, even though you're using more energy? Or do you think you're going to get more tired by trying to conserve, but being on the back foot and letting them impose on you?
More tired the second one for sure.
Exactly. So there's a what is it, like a metaphysical element here, whereas like it's actually empowering and it energizes you to win. Even if you're physically using more glycogen, you're depleting your muscular energy stores quicker, like your ATP, all the rest of it. Like even if you're physiologically using more energy, just by virtue of you imposing and feeling yourself win and feel like the man in that moment against your opponent, that is so stimulating. Like winning creates momentum every moment, every exchange you come off the winner, every time you make him miss and you land a counter. Yes, you're using big movements to counter or whatever, but by virtue of you winning that exchange, it fuels you. Do you see what I mean? And have you noticed that yourself?
Yeah, for sure. As I said, like my last fight before this was an amateur, so I just basically walked them around the ring essentially. Like I could have done another 3 rounds at that pace. I could have done 10 more rounds at that pace, to be honest.
How weird is it to think that walking backwards around a ring, blocking punches, actually basically uses it? Say you were walking around the ring just throwing a jab, keeping away, versus walking forward, throwing a jab. It's the same movements. You just take the same amount of steps. One is so much more tiring than the other.
Yeah, for sure.
Walking away is so much more tiring than walking forward. So use energy to create. My tip here, just for anyone listening, is use energy and don't be scared. It's kind of like money. Don't be scared of spending it. Don't be scared of investing it so that you get a result to then create momentum to fuel you forward in the fight. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, don't be worried to like throw some combinations and go big and heavy. As long as you get the result and you're pushing backwards, it's going to fuel you to move to keep going. Do you get what I mean? Abundance versus scarcity, basically, this comes down to. Yeah, I see the heavy breathing there.
Yeah, for sure.
You see here, like that constant backstepping. Yeah, it's tiring, right?
So this would be like the last minute of an amateur fight here now.
Sure. And you're only just halfway through this one.
Yeah, and I'm only halfway through the fucking fight.
It's crazy, man. Nice, good little. That's nice. You see that? If you had done like, that's going to give you momentum right there.
Yeah.
You took the middle back. You see that? Look, you're doing all this. You're like natural. Do you see that? Like, you've got more than you think you do, and all you got to do is often just land. And how crazy is it? This is only a 4-round fight. Imagine pros are doing 12.
Oh, it's actually crazy.
They were doing 15. Muhammad Ali's career was 15 rounds, 4 times more than this.
It's actually crazy, bro.
It's disgusting. People have no idea what that guy went through.
Yeah.
Yeah, mate, I could be a pro boxer. It's just I don't really want to, like, you know, I've got better things.
Yeah.
My elbow injured my
I would. Yeah, the second round was probably the most competitive, to be honest. That was a good scrap there for both of us.
That was a good one.
Right, round 3, if you want to pause it there. Round 3, I'm absolutely fucked. And then I feel like in round 4, I got a bit of a second coming. So round 3 is like probably like my worst round objectively. Kind of claw back a little bit in the next one, but anyway.
Nice. Okay. Just about that, you know how you've usually got a second wind. Did you surprise yourself at how much more energy you actually had in round 4?
Yeah, I was saying that. I was only saying this morning. I feel like how I fought in round 4, like I was completely fatigued, completely fucked. But I don't think I would have got like any more tired than that. Like I feel like I just would have hit like a saturation, like where it's like dropping, hits a level, and I probably could have done like 2 or 3 more rounds like at that pace. I was just like, I was fucked, but I was still in the fight. Like I could still throw and I could still, you know, kind of move head and shit like that.
How are your knees, by the way, in this? Because anyone doesn't know, Tom's had some knee issues in the past.
Yeah, I have 2 torn ACLs, one on either knee. Got one operated on, and then just said fuck it and just YOLO the other one. But no, they're good. No complaints from them.
How did you mentally deal with that? Because one thing I think is impressive about you, having these two ACL injuries, yet you're still stepping up, you're still fighting at a pro level, taking these risks. What is it like? How do you do that versus the people that are like making the kind of excuses where they can't even be, they're like, oh no, I can't even do boxing training right now because I've got to focus on business or some other gay shit. Like, oh, I hurt my little finger one time, so I'm scared of hitting the bag.
So like, I went into this fight with like a fucked up nose. I know I don't even see the video I posted on Twitter with like my fucking hematoma or whatever. So I went into the fight like with a fuck nose basically, and then also I've been dealing with like I don't know fractured or broken. I don't even know. I've never got it like fucking CAT scan. Index finger since like February. So like you're always going to have bangs. You're playing a contact sport. I'm used to it from rugby. Like you're going into every game with something.
Yep.
So I've got the ACLs, I got the fucking finger, I got the fucking nose, I've got a fucking sore rib now, like a fucking, I don't know, bruised rib. Hopefully it's just a bruise, but it's fucked. And I'm still training away. So like you're never going to be 100%. So if you're the one saying, oh, well, I can't do this because of that, you're just a pussy, to be honest.
Absolutely. There you go. Take BPC and TB as well. That helps. Nice. This is really nice movement, by the way. Like you're moving so good for a guy that's fucking had the experience you have. Well, the lack of experience you have. If I didn't know who you were and I saw this, I would assume, oh, it has a big left hook for me. I would assume you've got at least 10 times the experience you actually do based on this video. Did that wobble you at all? That seemed like a big left hook you landed.
I don't know.
Fucking hell, that's a good one too for me. No, a good 3 too.
Like he's got 7 knockouts, so he obviously has knockout power.
But all heavyweights do. One thing I just on a technical level here, a little autistic point. I want to show you something. Look, so there's basically 2 types of got. Well, there's 3. You got hands up, high guard. You got hands down, and you got shell. Those are basically the 3 types of ways of where you can hold your hands. He's got hands up. You've got a shell, and you're relying on head movement here. Watch this. This is like a 2-second clip. I just want to show you.
Yeah.
Here. In that 2 seconds right there, look how much energy this would have cost you versus him. And also think of the breathing mechanics based on your posture, how you intake air, how your lungs work, and who do you think in this moment was able to better and more efficiently intake oxygen and expel CO2 and regulate their energy better out of you compromising yourself like this, having to use energy to move in the first place, bending over and compromising the diaphragm, or him standing upright like this.
Yeah, that's something I've actually been doing recently. Is just like mixing like a couple of guards. I feel more comfortable in that kind of L guard, like L fucking guard, Philly shell, whatever you want to call it. So again, I was probably just de factoing back to that.
It's not. Look, there's nothing wrong with what you're doing. Like all guards work at different points. There's no right or wrong. It's just what works in that moment. These are just the things that I want to point out. And like the more experience you get, the more you'll recognize like at what moment to do what. So if you see someone just standing with a high guard like that and he's not really moving, do you really need to move like this? And this might seem like an overly hyper focusing on this 1-2 second thing, but extrapolate this over 2 rounds, 3 rounds, 4 rounds, 10 rounds as you get better and better. This shit compounds, and this is how you conserve energy. So like someone just and also watch how efficient he was with all he did was just catch and return your jab. Here, look, watch this. Boom, boom. You see how efficient that is for him? In that moment of him just standing there, catch, return, clinch. He's used fuck all energy. He's basically still scored on you. And meanwhile, you've had to do all of this just to throw one jab and then clinch. So you've used like 5 times more the energy and movement just to get the same result as him. Do you get what I'm saying? So it's like little things like this, just working out, okay, well, what's the most efficient option in this moment? If he's standing there with a high guard, mate, just take a step back, make him come forward and counter him when he comes in versus like having to force something in that moment. And that was another point that I had for you was you do such a good job of like actually leaning on your back foot. And there was times where you invited and made him miss, but I didn't really see you throw that many like counter uppercuts or like counter crosses or like counter hooks off of the back of his straights. And that's one thing I think you could definitely integrate into your pad work as well. It's like being on this back foot position, slipping and then countering.
Yeah.
Counter fighting is something you should definitely start looking to refine because you have really good shape for it naturally. How are you feeling here? This is when it's horrible when you look at the clock and you're like, fuck, all right, this round's almost over and it's only halfway done.
Yeah.
Did you sense at any moment that he was like getting more and more confident or less confident? Like, did you get any read on him?
No, he was definitely building up the confidence as he was going. I think like he was definitely getting better as it went on and as I was fading away. But I don't know. I think at this stage I was just running pure off fucking sheer will, to be honest. Like as I said, I'm completely fucked. Round 4, I pick it up a little bit more. Like there now, I still flicked his head back with some jabs.
Yeah, sure.
Trying to keep some bit of manners on him at least.
You know something? I think a technique that will work really well for you, by the way, is off of your jab.
Yeah.
Off of those jabs there. So you do such a good job of landing that sneaky jab just straight through the middle. Get used to when you retract it, pulling his front hand down. Boom. Boom. See that? Jab.
Sorry, which his lead hand here, is it?
His lead hand. So when you're landing your jab, your jab goes out. As you retract it, pull his lead hand down for your cross. It's just a really cheeky little trick that you can use to just threaten his just to keep breaking his shape down. And even if you don't land the cross, it's annoying and it burns their shoulder out. When you pull their hand down, they have to bring it back up again. You see that? Look. So here, see that? See how he brings his front hand up straight away? Just keep pulling it down.
Yeah, I'm fucked here now.
I like that. That's heart right there. That right there, by the way, everyone watching, is a demonstration of what you can't really teach. Tom's fucked. He's gassed. You can see he is. Look what happens. He gets put in the corner. You had the option of backing away there, which is what most pussy holes do. They just go like this. You literally step forward despite having nothing really left in the tank and then still come forward with a jab here. I like that. Look. That's very inspiring. That would tell me that you're still in this fight fully.
I think I got a little bit of a second coming in this. I don't know. I'm still fucked.
No, your jab's looking nice though, still.
Yeah, but it's funny though. You're talking about like countering and shit like that. Like I would actually consider myself a counter puncher. I just didn't do it in this fight.
But that's what I'm saying. That's my whole point, is that you naturally have the shape for it. You naturally invite the setup, but there just wasn't the instinct or the training or the drills to actually like land those counter shots. That's my whole point entirely. That's something that you've just got to drill and just go over and do specific sparring where you let people throw it and you just try and land counters only. It takes time. It's good to see you're still going to the body. And do you want to see something cool here? Stuff like this. This shows, by the way, this is a bit of an esoteric concept where it shows that you're naturally a leader, like you are a very alpha guy, because this guy hasn't really been attacking your body up till now that much. And even in round 4, you were the one that initiated this jab exchange to the body. Where was it? Just here, like you're still going to the body, and look, he then starts coming back to the body. So that's a really good. It's called like leading the dancer. Right? Like who's leading the whole exchange and the rhythm and the terms of the engagement. This guy doesn't instinctively jab you in the body, but as soon as you hit him and catch him, he's like, "Fuck that! I need to match you." So you're setting the frame, even though you're more tired. You see that? Do you see what I mean? He came back with his own body jab. He started coming back to your body after you landed on him.
Jumping hook.
Yeah. So he's still bouncy here, which is like obviously something that I need to develop. I basically had like a month to go from amateur to pro conditioning, which.
Well, I gave you that cardio thing I gave you. I think you had like 2 weeks.
If I did, yeah. So I started that with like 3 weeks out. If I didn't have that, I would have got knocked the fuck out. I say genuinely.
So did that help?
100%. If I didn't have that cardio program that you gave me, I reckon he would have found my job and he would have knocked me the fuck out. Like that was probably like what kept me in the fight, was being able to flush out that lactic while I was on the stool. Like I came back from round 4, absolutely fucked from round 3.
I gave you. Remember, I said when I gave it to you, I said like the priority here is to just quickly get used to you responding to anaerobic activity ASAP.
If I didn't do those, I would have got knocked the fuck out. I'd say.
I saved your life.
Yeah, potentially, yeah.
My guardian angel. Make me a saint.
I just felt like when I'd come off the stool, I actually felt good, to be fair, which is something that I'm kind of proud of. Like when I'd step off the stool, I'd be like, all right, let's fucking go. I never had a negative thought in my head coming off the stool.
Nice. That's good movement. And that, by the way, that cardio program I gave you, it was psychological as much as biological. Because to get through those later rounds of the cardio thing, there's a secret. We need to come up with a good term for this, like the secret fucking cardio emerald tablets or something. But like when you get through, Pierre, you were doing it as well. Like after the first 2-3 rounds, you're like, yo, I could do this. Really? What? It's only like 8 rounds, no problem. And then after that third, that fourth, that fifth, it's just like, nah.
I'm about to do this shit again.
Yeah, it's crazy.
The first time we did it, it was so much lactic acid in the legs, couldn't even get off the bike for a second.
We were in so much pain. It was funny, bro. I didn't even know I had those muscles like in me to be sore.
Yeah, that bike is a demon, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, he's so bouncy here. Like he's still flowing. Look,
He looks better now than he did in round
Yeah.
Can you do this movement, by the way? Can you do what he's doing with your knees? I remember you
for
saying
sure. I absolutely can, but just not for. Yeah, he's still flowy, bouncy, and he's more dangerous when he's flowy and bouncy as well.
Wait, nice counter.
Done.
Nice. How was that? How was that at the end? Like the moment the bell rang, what did you think?
It was the best feeling in the fucking world. Obviously, I was disappointed because I knew I lost, but when I
You knew
went,
you lost when the bell went.
yeah, for sure, fucking hell, yeah. I knew I didn't do enough to win. Like he fucking was way fitter, way more volume and shit. But I was proud of how I performed, considering where I'm at, and like I know now that, like as I said, fuck's sake, I've been competing for 10 months. In another 10 months, it's going to be night and day. Also, we're now training partners, myself and Morad as well. So like we're like today, this morning, like we did 5 fucking rounds this morning, me and Morad.
Yeah, how was that? How was it sparring him versus fighting him?
Oh, he has my number for sure. Like he's just way fitter than me. Like we like on round 5, I was just so fucked. We were sparring hard as well. Like we're not sparring light. Like we're sparring fucking hard. But I reckon 2 months I'll be a completely different fighter. So everything that has happened here is a massive win for me. Like me and Morad now are now training partners. Like it's fucking insane.
How was it technically sparring him? Have you noticed anything that you didn't notice in the fight? Have you feel closer to him, like in terms of ability? Are you noticing he's a lot better than you thought? Anything like that?
In terms of cardio, like he probably has like 70% on me in cardio. So it very much limits like what I can fucking throw when I'm just gassed to fuck. But I reckon, as I said, in like 2 months of training with him, because the sessions are tough. Like we're pushing each other. He's a very good guy. He's very knowledgeable. Like at the end of the session today, he was kind of like basically like teaching me. He was like, look, he was kind of saying what you were saying. He was like, mix up the guards a little more. You're kind of saying, okay, you did this here. Like how much movement did that take when you could have just done this and then boom. So he was kind of telling me as well. He was like, look, mix up your guards, etc. So he's kind of dropping some sauce to me. And yeah, like as I said, like I've no fucking ego. Like I'm just grateful to have him as a training partner. Hopefully I'm going to be offering some good training back to him. And yeah, in like maybe another 2 months, I'll take another fight. And I know for a fact I'm going to be night and day to what I was.
Having him in your corner. This is basically the plot to fucking Rocky 3, isn't it? With Ivan Drago. Fights Apollo Creed and they become best mates.
Yeah, he basically, because I fought.
And he's black as well. This is great. Get him to Grand Afro. Get him to Grand Afro and do a slow motion sprint on the beach.
I basically I fought a guy in the amateurs, as I said, a month prior to this, and he was the corner man of the guy that I fought. So he would have saw me in that amateur fight, and he basically said that he was kind of like licking his lips, essentially being like, all right, this is gonna be whatever. And then he's just said that he saw me improve. Obviously, then we fought like a month later, and he was like, okay, like you've improved like a lot. He was like, the fuck. And then on this night, we had like 2 guys from our gym get like a fucking first round finish. One of them had like one of the best knockouts of the entire night. And there was like 3 or 4 knockouts in total. I think he had like, I don't know that he actually win, but like he definitely was up there with like knockout of the night.
He definitely got knocked out of the night.
Yeah. It was sick. It was like a 6-piece fucking combination knockout
against the ropes, fucking uppercut, hook.
And I think like all of that taken into account, I think Morad was just like, fuck, I want to see what's going on at this gym. And he just rocked up, and we're training partners now. So I literally have no complaints like at all. I'm exactly where I need to be. I'm doing exactly what I need to do. Everyone I have around me is making me a better fighter.
It's interesting, right? Like I think was even from a meta point of view, your attitude and your energy and your application of mindset from being that Google employee from the moment of taking that hard job that you were unqualified to do to now having a guy that you fought. Like I did say, you're an alpha guy, you're magnetic, you're making him react to you in the fight, even though he's better and he's got more energy and the rest of it in that moment. You're now he's now coming to your gym. Don't overlook the magnitude of that. This motherfucker who's just beat you is coming to train with you. Do you realize how cool that is? Fuck the result. Like,
yeah, but it's also like the gym as a whole for sure. Like Theo, our coach Theo, he's a fucking legend. Like,
yeah,
he's
sure.
probably one of the best coaches in Bali, and like I think it's the whole collective of the gym. But for sure, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, that's still part of my point. Is like the fact you're able to perceive who to go to. I mean, look at me. Look at the input you're getting from me. Do you know what I mean? Like look at the support you're getting from everyone. Like Pierre in the crowd. Like just having those right mental foundations. I don't think people people need to understand the power of that and how that can just improve your life so much and open so many doors for you in whatever endeavor. For you right now, it happens to be boxing, but same with everything, right? Whatever your chosen field is, could be marketing, could be copywriting, whatever you want to do. As long as you have these tenets, things are just going to happen for you. What would you say? Let's summarize. Do you get what I'm saying, by the way?
No, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I want to add to the gym dynamic because T doesn't see it the side of the gym that I see all the time. Like, let's say T's 5 minutes late, the entire gym, he's a central piece to the gym. Like, the reason why our community is so good is like 50% to do with this motherfucker. Like, if T's 5 minutes late, the gym will congregate around me and just ask me where he's at. Like, they'll postpone the class until he gets here. You know what I mean?
What do you, if you had to summarize those traits, let's say in like 3 words, 3 to 5 words, what would you say they are? Yeah.
Okay, I run a business with Tom. Tom is a winner, right? So he might not know what the fuck he's talking about, but when he's doing it, it's gonna work. Like that's the best way I could put it. Yeah,
He's talking about
that's what I tell my boys too.
I don't want to turn this into a glazing competition, but fucking Pierre is like one of the most hands-on, most reliable motherfuckers I probably know. In fact, probably one of the most reliable guys in my entire life.
But what is it? Let's just look at let's distill these traits. Like, what are they in like 3 words? 3 what? Like, whether it's positivity, gratitude, confidence. Like, what is the actual things?
Yeah, I think those 3 you just listed: positivity, gratitude, confidence. Reliability is a fucking huge one. Like, if I text Pierre, like, if shit hit the fan, I know that if I text Pierre, he can sort it out.
You guys were getting drunk during our time training in Bangkok together. You were never late and missed a session.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'll actually very rarely be late for a session. To be fair, it's not like I'm like this dickhead who just like rocks up 10 minutes late. I know you weren't insinuating that, but like
3 R's: retarded, reliable, rambunctious.
Yeah, I think you also have to have just a bit of fucking laissez-faire energy to you. Like whatever the fuck happens, it just happens, and just roll with it. Like like a lot of people, they'll take a lick or whatever, and I don't know, it just affects our aura, it affects our mindset, it affects everything. But like you can choose to not be affected by these things.
You know what I love as well? There's like the Buddhist Sanskrit deep fucking ways of saying all this stuff, and then there's the Western degenerate one. Like the Buddhist one would be like, be unattached and seek presence in each moment. Your one's just like, yo, fuck it, run it. From Guru Tom and Pierre.
We were on this.
That's literally our life mantra. Fuck it, run it.
Yeah, the Dalai Lama spoke and touched on this. What would be have you got any like final thoughts or advice for anyone? Actually, it's not even final. Let's actually talk some shit at people that deserve shit being talked to them, which is basically anyone that's too scared to do combat training. Should you, all right, first and foremost, would you agree, not even being biased, every man should learn some form of like fighting?
100%. Like you just walk.
It's laughable that the thought that people aren't doing fight training, that they could even go through life without learning how to throw a punch. What's wrong with you?
It's just, it affects every single aspect of you as a man. Like you're just more confident, you're in better shape. Like as a result of even just those 2 things, your life is going to improve. You're going to get better women. You're going to be more respected when you walk into a room, be it a fucking sales call if you're a gay agency, or be it a corporate interview or whatever. Everything stems back to just fucking being competent in something as difficult as martial arts.
Why is that different to weightlifting? Because I have so many people being like, yeah, bro, but you get that from weightlifting. And some people,
no adversity in weightlifting. You're doing fucking curls in the mirror, fuck's sake. There's 0 adversity, and no one actually really respects it. Like, trust me, coming from a guy that literally was like lifting weights like for so fucking long, and like bulking to like 100, like 255 pounds and all this. Like that was like my North Star when I was training. I realized it's all fucking retarded because some guy that's 60 kilos can spark me out. Like, what's the point of having all this dead weight on my body if I can't actually put it to use? So yeah, I guess it's kind of like an ego death, really, when you realize that lifting weights is just actually extremely bent. And like, if you're not confident as a man, what the fuck else are you?
Well, the first time you get tuned up, I remember the first time I got armbarred in jiu-jitsu when I was like 15. The first time I got armbarred and the first time I got my nose busted in sparring was like also the first time taking acid and shrooms. It's very similar, like really, really similar. Like, yo, what the fuck? I don't, nothing, what? Like, it's just your whole paradigm blows.
Like,
So what do you have to say to all the people that are considering fighting? But mate, these are the ones that piss me off so much because it's so fixable. I really want to train once I get X, Y, and Z degree, once I make more money, once I've done whatever, then I'll start training.
Firstly, like, I know it sounds kind of cringe, like Tumblr, like quote-esque, but tomorrow's not guaranteed
Right.
to anyone, especially if you're taking a vax, but we leave that aside. Tomorrow is not guaranteed, bro. So like, you can have all these visions of grandeur and shit in your head, and none of it might not happen. In fact, none of it probably will happen. So the only thing that's guaranteed is literally just like fucking right now. So it links back to run it.
yeah.
Run it. Fuck it, punch it. Have you got any other parting comments?
Yeah, P, you go first.
I will say this. One big thing that don't want to go under the radar that happened in this event is we were able to sponsor the boys as well as Tom sponsoring himself. So we run a company called Sabre, so men's health supplements. I don't even want to plug it. We had on the front of the shorts was our name on the on two of the boys that got the knockouts, one guy that didn't come out with the winning in T. And so it was such a thing that just feeds into itself. We train, and because we train, people watch what we do, and because people watch what we do, they see what we sell. Our business helps our fighting helps our business. So for anybody that doesn't want to do martial arts, doesn't know, it can all be one endeavor. I mean, there's no limits at all. We tweet, we fight, we sell Sabre, and it's all one thing. If we go out to Bangkok and film a nice video of samurais, it's going to make us better at fighting because we're with samurais, but people are going to watch the video and they're going to see our brand. It's like, why are you limiting yourself? Like, oh my gosh, how am I going to do Soya Corp and fighting? Like, who said you had to do Soya Corp? Like, you know what I mean? Do anything you want to.
What would you say would you say you two are fully unplugged at this point? So you're not dependent on a job you don't want to do. You can basically do whatever you want and you're self-sustainable.
I would say we're fully unplugged from ever having an authority under God that would tell us what to do. But I would say starting a business in and of itself, you know this, you're going through this right now. It's essentially, it's way harder.
There's a reason 99% of businesses fail.
Yeah.
But we have it any other way. We want the challenge with the bigger. We don't want the safety.
Right. So that's what I think so cool is that once you've decided you want this, I think a sad thing I hear a lot is people going, "Oh, I've still got to do my gay job." Like they're being positive, but they're like, "I'm still trapped." No, you're not. I was mentoring someone yesterday saying the same thing. He was like, "I've got to get a job whilst I find my way and build my brand and stuff." And it's like, bro, don't see it like that. Don't see it as like I've got to do this so that I can do that. It's like, yo, I'm getting to do this as part of my fucking thing. Like doing a job that you don't want to do or doing anything you don't want to do as part of the thing you do want to do, they aren't really separate. Don't see it as an anchor where you're like, fuck, if only I didn't have to do this for 50% of the time and then I could focus on that. Like you're already halving your like power by half because you're saying half of me is like way down in a compressive state. Whereas if you go, yo, I'm doing this fucking thing because it's necessary to fuel this thing that I love and that holistic picture is amazing and it's exactly where I want to be. How much more powerful is that?
Yeah. 100%. Like,
and when you frame into that, like you'll start working out how to just combine the two. Say you're doing like sales or something, or you're working in. I used to work in a PC world in England, if you know what that is, where I was like shot in fridges and like computer insurance. And did I want to go do a job and put on a tie and work for a company? Obviously not. But I just looked at the positive and was like, I love talking to people. It's charismatic. It's commissions based. And guess what? Each fucking insurance I sell is going to be another week I get to train in Thailand. This is when I was 18 years old, by the way, 17. Like in my head, I was just like, fucking sick. This is part of the story. Like I've earned the right to go and train and learn from the best. And then I'm going to use those skills to build the next thing. And That's just how you see it. I didn't think, fuck's sake, I've got to do this
Yeah,
corporate
yeah.
sales job. I wish I could train, but I can only train when I'm
Everything
on
is a stepping stone. Everything is a stepping stone.
together. It's all
Yeah.
together. If you're focused on where the fuck you want to get to, and you really believe in those in your destiny, like everything's just part of it, and it becomes you integrate it. So Pierre, I cut you off. What were you saying?
Nothing. I was just saying it's so reflective in what you do as well. You're a coach, you sell fight products, and you make fight content. And it's all the same thing. You go to the gym, you train somebody, you get your own training session in, you make a video, and you sell your product. It's all 1 hour. Like people have such a limiting factor of what they have time for and what they don't have time for. Nobody doesn't have enough time for stuff. Everybody's able, ready, and able. It's just who's courageous and who's not. That's what it comes
Yeah.
down to.
Yeah, courage, I think, regardless of your niche and your passion and what you're going for, as long as you're courageous, unapologetic, compassionate, humble, magnetic, grateful, just all these traits that clearly all of us have got and successful people have. And the highest champions have them. George St. Pierre, Anderson Silva, Conor, like all of these guys, you see it, and especially when they lose. Watch the champions when they lose. John Haggerty lost the other day against Superleg and knocked out in like 20 seconds. He had a really good interview afterwards, right? I've trained with both of them, and they both have this trait, which is, mate, watch John Haggerty's after, where he said he's literally crying in the interview, and he's going, yo, I dared to be great. These things happen. It's a tough day at the office. Let's fucking go. That's what he said. He's like, they're like trying to not break in the test. He goes, yo, let's go. I dared to be great. Like, that level of humility to accept I got beaten and bested, I'm still fucking confident, mate. It's such a powerful interview. You should watch it if you haven't. Someone put it over this clip. It's so sick because, like, even when he's winning, he's on top of it. Same with Conor when he gets choked out by Nate Diaz or whatever. He's like, yeah, well, you win or you learn. Like, if you have these traits, you're going to be fine. And then another thing is, there's a reason, you know, that thing about coffee shops where on a high street, like, there's more and more coffee shops all over the place. Most people would look at that and go, oh, there's already enough coffee shops. I shouldn't make one. Whereas like the smart person would go, the abundant person would go, that would be the scarce version, by the way. The scarce pussy would go, oh, there's too many coffee shops. So I'm not going to get one because it's saturated. Whereas the abundant person would be like, fuck, there's clearly such a demand for it. There's a chance this is going to fail because there's already so many. So clearly people want this. I've just got to be the best at it. That's the powerful way of looking at it. So like, if you love fitness and you want to monetize your fitness, mate, there's not someone shout out Jack, the philosopher boxer. He messaged me this on Twitter and he said, I rate what you're doing. There's enough space for like all of us, something like that, because he's a boxing coach as well. Like we're basically doing the same thing. And he's like, yeah, great. You do it, I'll do it. Like there's not you two could do it. Be a boxing fucking coach online or whatever. It's just there's 6 billion people out there. Do you know what I'm saying? You only need like 5,000 or whatever. You only need like a couple of thousand to really like keep you going in that way.
Plus, some people need you, right? And some people
Right.
need Tom.
Yeah.
Like, some people need me, right? So like nobody's always going to resonate with the other coach, with Jack or whoever. I've never even seen him. T had a good point about this. Like, obviously, right? Everybody has their religion. Me and T are Christian. We're like, what a priest says. This is T's point. What a priest says to somebody might go right over their head because, like, oh, of course you said that you're a priest. But then if I say it, it's like, oh yeah, I'm drinking a bintang right now. It's gonna hit exactly the person who's like me. You see what I'm saying? He's gonna understand it. So there's room for everybody. Like somebody might need you. So it's actually kind of selfish to say, I'm not going to do this because it's not demand or like.
Sure. That's a very good point. Yeah. Don't be selfish. Being scared is being selfish. It's gay. Don't be a scumbag.
In terms of myself, just closing remarks. Obviously, the camp that we had with you, Summers, is absolutely massive. I'm blessed in the sense that I have a legitimate like legend of a coach here in Bali, who I just happen to just get along with like so well, just on like a fucking personal and spiritual level. But even yourself as well, like you put us through the ringer for 5 days. Like fuck's sake, if we were training for a month with you, yeah, it's crazy. Like the level of like technicals you go into. As I said, I spoke about this before. It's not something that you're gonna find in 9 out of 10 gyms you go to. Fuck it, 99 out of 100 gyms you go to. You're just not gonna get that level of technicals that you have. Breaking it down, like not just like, all right, this is the jab, like breaking down the fucking biology of the jab. Like who the fuck does that? As you said, like you praised my jab in that fight. I was happy with the jab. Could have been better, of course. Everything can be better. But where it was when I first started training with you, you were like, fuck's sake, that's a shit jab. Like there's no power in that. Yeah. To like a month and a half later, like I'm snapping the neck of a heavyweight back. I mean, that's all from you.
Yeah. That was the most important thing that you got out of our time training was that fucking jab, because I saw your potential for it. I was like, bro, like you're not using the most objectively important punch in boxing, but also one that's going to work for you in particular. Like you have, like your fucking ability to throw that out snappy and like in different ways is good. It's huge, and you're only just starting. Like you still got so much conditioning you can do in your shoulder to get that snap, more endurance, more shape, like more angles, more feints, more structure. There's loads you can do with your jab, and it's an exciting thing to watch. I'm gonna try to come over to Bali and over the next few months. I want to come visit.
Yeah,
So we'll get some sessions.
that'd be absolutely massive. That'd be massive.
Sweet as. All right, I'll see you guys soon.
See you, bro.